Welcome to Ask the Pastors. This is our first rendition. So what our job here is going to take all the questions you guys asked on the panel night that we didn't get to answer, and we're going to do every pastor. So Pastor Craig is going to be our first one, then we'll do Pastor Moses and Pastor Jimmy. So today we have Pastor Craig with us. Thanks for helping us with these questions. So our first question that we're going to ask Pastor Craig that was not able to be answered on our panel night is it bad to miss Sunday morning service or youth group because of homework?
Good question. The answer is yes and no. Next question.
Okay, you heard it here
first. That's a really good question, and the answer is kind of yes and no, and I'll explain why. Hebrews 10:25, it talks about how we're supposed to come together as a church. We're supposed to come together. We need each other to encourage one another. We need to lift one another up. We need all these different things because the Christian life isn't supposed to be lived out just by yourself. Not supposed to be lived out alone. We're supposed to be able to do it together. And we can't do it by ourselves. And then Paul kind of elaborates as well in Ephesians 5, verse 25. He talks about how we are the bride of Christ. The church is the bride of Christ. And so I think about in my own life, if I prioritize too many things over Caroline, my wife, my bride, that'd be pretty bad. I look forward to spending time with her. I look forward to being with her. I look forward to having conversations with her and all that kind of stuff. And so I look forward to that. And that's kind of how we should look forward to going to church. We should look forward to doing that. However, we do have different things that come up, and we all have emergencies. Like if I'm violently throwing up, I'm not going to come to the youth, right?
Please don't come to youth.
But at the same time. God is very clear, and He does tell us that we do need to take a Sabbath. Mm-hmm. He even tells us that, Jesus tells us that in Mark 2:27, that God doesn't need rest, but we do need rest. He set that example for us. And so the question, I think, is more along the lines of how are you prioritizing your time? Mm-hmm. So do you have to do homework instead of coming to church because you really had that much homework and you came home from school, you ate dinner, or you did whatever, and you went right to homework, and you've been doing that? Or have you been playing video games? Have you been just hanging out? Have you been on Snapchat? Have you been on Facebook? And then you did all those things first, and then you couldn't come to church because you had homework to do. At that point, that's an excuse, and you're not really having a Sabbath. That Sabbath really just means the time that you're taking apart to just rest in God. So when I say rest in God, that means coming to church, coming to youth, and making that a priority in your life because God tells us to do that. And so, really just manage your time better if you can. And if you're honestly got that much homework, I think that's something that, God understands, God knows your heart.
That's good. If you're not taking notes, you should. So I'm just going to throw that out there. Moving on to our second and final question for Pastor Craig is, do you ever feel scared about eternity or never able to comprehend life here on earth ending?
Those are really, really two hugely different questions just in that one thing. Do I ever feel scared about eternity? I'll just cover that one first. I remember being in middle school, and there's a guy that was talking to us, and he's like, if you die today, do you know where you go? And I was like, probably. I'd probably go to heaven. And at that point, I kind of was. I was like, oh man, what would I tell God? What would it? Where would I go? Today, not so much. Like if I die, now I'm going to heaven, right? But if you're kind of in that place where you're scared, you're really not sure where you're going, you really do need to turn to the Bible. And I have some notes because I have so many verses that I wanted to cover on this, so just kind of bear with me. Matthew 6:25-34. Basically, put that all together in one sentence, and it basically means don't worry about tomorrow. Don't worry about dying. Don't worry about all that kind of stuff because tomorrow's got enough stress on its own. Just worry about here and worry about right now. And so what that means is you want to focus on what God has for you today. Mm-hmm. If you're focusing on what God has for you today and you do that every single day, well, you don't have to worry about where you're going. When you die, you're going to go to heaven. 2 Timothy 1:7 says that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of an understanding mind. If we're terrified of something or scared of something or something like that, well, it's probably not of God. What we want to do is we want to understand that God is in control, first of all, and then we don't really have to stress out. We don't really have to worry. Now, that comes in time, and as your faith grows and all that kind of stuff, then yet you are able to have that strong faith that says, when I die, I know I'm going to heaven. You know, going to the second part of that question, it talks about, are you not able to comprehend life on earth ending? That's kind of crazy to think about because I still like to think I'm kind of young, but as you get older, they fear death, you know, and it's one of those things where I do talk to a lot of older people that they are scared. They don't know what's going to happen, you know, what happens when I die, you know, I don't really know. But that goes to a more basic fear of change. If you can think about the first time you were going to a new school, the first time you were going to a new job, or the first time you were kind of moving to a new neighborhood, we were all nervous the first day we went to high school. You know, like, oh man, new school, you know, or the first time you change schools. There's a fear there. There's an innate, you know, kind of stress. And so I think death is kind of like that because it's a new change in life, you know, per se. And so when we're changing and transferring to something new, it's scary. It is. I'm not really worried about it because I know where I'm going, you know, and I know I'm going to heaven, and I don't really have to worry about that. God tells us in Proverbs 27 that tomorrow is not promised. And yeah, I mean, none of us know when we're going to die. None of us know what's going to happen. But at the same time, we go back to that first verse we were talking about in Matthew, you know, where it says, don't worry about tomorrow. Worry about today, you know. And so I think if we just focus on worrying about today and knowing that God has a plan for each and every one of us for today, we won't worry about what's happening in the future as much.
That's good. Those are two solid answers from Pastor Craig. And guys, I encourage you that if you weren't taking notes, grab some notes, because Pastor Craig put some really great scripture out there that I think we should all learn and at least meditate on so we can figure out how that applies to our lives. But I'm really glad you joined us for our first part of Ask the Pastors, part 1 of 3 for now. So if you're watching this, hopefully we'll see you next week.
Ask more questions.
Oh yeah, and ask more questions.
Post them up.
Facebook, send them in, text messages. You got my number, you got Pastor Craig's number. We want to answer your questions.
Private message.
Yeah,
it's all good.
All of it. We got it. So we'll see you next time.
Love you guys.